That's right. They're right there.
Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Heatblur Simulation right below us. Give them some love in the chat. Thank you guys for being with us today. It's a privilege to have you.
Gentlemen, good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yes, we have the sound. That's great. You created so much hype with only one plane. Congratulations.
Scary.
I'm speechless. We've got some
As is
questions for
tradition.
you, and I'm pretty sure that the chat also have some questions for you. First of all, thank you for being with us today. I know the schedule and time difference, it can be kind of challenging sometimes to all be together. And let's dive in right before the questions. Do you have anything to say to the community now that you're in front of them?
Sure. Alex, you want to take this one?
Yeah, well, first of all, I want to thank you all for your great enthusiasm and passion and being here and, partaking in the giveaways with so much, enthusiasm, your support through the pre-order, through everything, through all the years also before in the F14 and the Vegan. We thank you. You're the best community. That's all I can say. And to you guys at VIAF, I want to say, this is by far the most amazing virtual air show that's ever been done. I think you've come such a long way. I mean, look at you guys sitting in a museum, real life setting. You had a real F5 pilot narrate today, the Tigers air show live. I mean, those are jumps from where it started in
I think we need a
Atomic
top tier
beginning.
special on how you guys put it all together. I mean, I want to watch that.
Well, we're
So,
trying to work
anyway,
on it, actually.
thank you guys.
It was a long road, and it always the preparation is a long road. And when you start the streaming the first day, you know it's going to be a long day and it's going to be a long road. The preparation is a phase, but after that, when you dive into it, you know it's going to be difficult, and it's like a long race to perform. But we are lucky enough to have a good community and so many people supporting us until the end of the night. Tonight we had more than 400 people watching us and living the thing with us. And with the support of you guys, having the chance of giving some giveaways like the F4 keys was something absolutely wonderful for us.
It really was. It really, really was. And I mean, 1,500 people watched it, all brought together by not only the hype of the module, but their passion for aviation. And I mean, the most passionate people of all must be you guys, because the amount of time and effort you must have put into this must be unimaginable.
So we'll start. I do have a question, is like when you know that you have all the skills and all the abilities to create a whole module, how do you choose the plane that you want to develop? It might be very difficult to settle and to say, okay, let's put all our efforts on this one. How do you guys do that choice? It might be so difficult.
Good question. Sometimes it's impulsive, actually. A late night flash of craziness. The Tomcat was like that, actually. We had a different project in mind. We've always loved the Tomcat, but I'm not sure. I don't even remember exactly how it happened, but the other project kind of got stowed away, and then somebody just went, well, what about the F14? And it was kind of a 5-minute moment of, can we do this? Yeah, we can do this. Let's do this. We snapped our fingers a little bit. Had a little bit of late night alcohol. Came up with Jester and a couple of other crazy things, and off we went to the races. So sometimes it's like that, and sometimes I don't know. Sometimes you think about something for months or years, and then you get the opportunity at some point to actually do it. And the Phantom has been like that, actually. Where it's something we've been wanting to do for a very long time, but then different things came in the way, or we weren't afforded the ability to do it, and then we could kind of jump into it at some point. So yeah, a little bit of both. Depends on how crazy we're feeling at a given moment.
That's incredible, because that reminds me of our own story. Like everything starts with a crazy idea. You know, if we do that, is it possible? And when everybody says no, there is always that people saying, no, 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 it's okay, we can do that. I don't know why, I don't know when, I don't know how, but we can. And that's awesome to start projects this way. That's something Nick Gray told us yesterday about the community. That's from the developers, from the users, from the viewers. It's something really engaging because you have to give 100% in what you do, and you are the perfect representation. I'm sorry, I'm losing my words. You are the perfect representation of that. Have you, Exolites, any question to ask this gentleman?
Well, I do have a lot, and I'm pretty sure that the many people watching have questions. Rest
yes.
assured, stay up, because we will answer questions directly from the chat. But before we go any further, I think it's worth it to take a few minutes for you gentlemen to each introduce yourselves and tell everyone what you do at Heatblur.
Okay, sure. I guess I can start things off. The easiest one, probably. Everybody's grown tired of me at this point. Well, I'm Nick. I founded, I guess, Leatherneck back in the day with a couple of partners, and then we kind of spun things off into Heatblur. And ever since then, I've been the director or the owner of this little fantastic group of people, and generally, I guess working title would be lead artist as well. So that's pretty much me in a nutshell, I suppose. Yeah, I guess I'm the easy one. I think hopefully by now people know know me in and out more or less.
All right, who's up next?
All right, I guess I take it. I'm Daniel, nickname Sabuzat. I'm with Heatblur for around a year now. I'm a developer, and my main responsibilities are targeting pods and also Jester AI, but like the rest of the team, also helping out left and right wherever needed.
Okay, I guess it's my turn now. So yeah, I'm Yannis, nickname Painter, and I'm actually an intern at Heatblur for C++ development. And I started about, I think, 2 or 3 weeks ago. And yeah, I'm basically just helping out wherever a helping hand is needed for the moment.
I'm Grayson, aka Grey Wolf, the voice of Jester. Been around a long time, voiced some other campaigns and things within DCS, and yeah, just really happy to be here and happy to be a part of Heatblur's amazing character they're bringing to life. And I'll never forget Cobra when he came to me with that total Dr. Evil look of, "Hey, we want to do an F-14, and we want you to voice it." Many many moments staring off into outer space going, really? So thank you guys for having me along and letting me rip around the jet, even though I'm usually in the back. So thank you.
Hey guys, I'm Iron Mike. Most of you, I think, know me from our interactions online, which I appreciate a lot, you guys. What I do at Heatblur is I'm part of the management team, community management, lead Q&A, mission design, also directed the Jest AI, try to write basically his language, his character, these kind of things, and everything in between and whatever you guys need, So I'm hopefully a good link between Heatblur and you guys.
A very good link, that's for sure. I mean, you've been ever so kind during Xitchin. I can't stress enough how kind the Heatblur team was to us when we were trying to prepare this display.
And it was also the case 4 years ago with the reveal of the F-14. It was in 2018, I believe, in December 2018. And the common point between the F-14 and the F-4 that you produce, it's not to quote a Rick and Morty movie, but when we have a look at your module, guys, we think that you managed to create a simulation inside a simulation. And that's the most important stuff you managed to do there. So how did you manage to push the limits of what's possible inside a simulator? in terms of technical stuff?
Good question. I don't know. I guess we, as a team and as in general as people, we kind of we if we just do the same thing over and over, we get kind of bored, or it's not really what drives us or what we're passionate about. Sure, it's great to be able to have a solid foundation and kind of build upon that. But every time we do something, we kind of both sit down and think about it, but we also get on the fly ideas about what can we do better, what kind of new things can we put in there, how can we help in our little way to push things forward and push the bar forward in terms of features or things people will like. And I mean, besides, we're kind of gamers ourselves, and there's things we want in flight sims, and a lot of these things are born from that, really. Just like I think everybody else, we want to be able to sit in the cockpit and just immerse ourselves as perfectly as we can. And we're very critical of our own work, I would say, as well. So it's a very high or very difficult thing to achieve for us to be able to enjoy our own work. So we really try and find ways where we can really do that. And sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. Some things are very difficult to put together, and we don't know if everything will work out right when we get into it. But hopefully, by the end of everything that we release, every module we release, we've been able to spicing up the dish a little bit in some way.
But when you are creating something as a team, and we know as you have an intern, so we understand that you are already pushing forward to the future and imagining new things. But how do you do to say, okay, stop, we won't go any further on the development, and we won't try to create new ideas before finishing the first one? Who has to take the bad cop role in order to say, no, stop, then we decide we go this way, and we stop at that point? Not to go too much into detail, but it's interesting.
In theory, but in practice, it doesn't really work out.
Yeah, like artists.
Yeah.
Well, there are certain points, there are certain points in development, of course, where you need to say now is enough. Now we need to focus on finishing the things. Right now, for example, is such a phase. We stopped adding new ideas now because it is already so full with new ideas for one and for the others. Now it's about completing the module and bringing it to you guys as soon as possible. So there has to be a certain limit when, of course, you stop adding new and new stuff. That doesn't mean that you stop having ideas, because you can take these ideas and postpone them, and then after release you can still add new things. And that's something we also like to do, and we pride ourselves in. I think that we keep adding content to our modules also long after they have been released, because a module needs to stay alive, needs to keep on living, and only new content and new ideas can do that. And of course, you have to also modernize it as the technology advances in simulations. This is why, for example, we take a much more holistic approach now in the F4, where we develop technologies that we later on can also apply backwards to the F14 and the VIGIN in time, and to improve these modules too. So it's all connected, and it has to be, of course, balanced in that regard. When do you push for new ideas, and when do you push to finish the ideas that you already started implementing?
We have a question coming from the chat, which is very technical, so I don't know which one of you guys will have to answer that one. I'm sorry for that, but what was the hardest part for you in the development of the module?
Ooh.
If
I think we could all answer that individually almost.
Yeah, I think so.
I guess
Let's
I can
maybe
also
start
take
with
one.
Daniel.
Yeah,
let's
sure.
start with Daniel.
So there was a moment in the development of the F4 rather early on where we focused a lot on improving our tooling and the code base in general, rather than, well, implementing the Phantom itself and its features. And there we created a lot of improvements on our tooling that we can then reuse, and which will accelerate our future development. And there have been moments there where we had to put in a lot of time and effort, and it wasn't really clear where exactly it will lead us to. But in the end, it worked out really well. For example, our component system or the wear and tear system that was mentioned in the trailer before. A lot of these things came together rather late before you started to realize the potential behind it. And also,
sorry, go ahead.
yeah. So, another example would also be you have seen in the trailer, for example, that we have the manual in game and stuff like that, and we had to put in a lot of effort that isn't directly visible in making this technology work out. It looks easy, but it is actually quite some effort, and this took several months, and we weren't quite sure where it's heading to. So that was quite a challenge, and we're very glad that it actually worked out, and the result is fantastic.
You know, you mentioned the wear and tear and the component system, and you also mentioned that some of the things that you did for the F4 would be reused in the Tomcat. Can you talk a little more about that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, we can't always go back, of course, and put in everything new that we're doing or are going to do into the older modules, because then we'll kind of stay stuck in one place, so to speak. But a big part of what we've been doing over the past 2.5 to 3 years has been really trying to figure out a way and building a way to unify our modules more, both the past ones to an extent, but I would say more for the future. And it's actually something a lot of teams say, that they have a common foundation, and it's going to be like a modular approach. But finally, we've come into this armed with many years of experience in doing this, and we also, as small companies and teams, there's a limit to how much we can grow, considering that flight sims are still a niche and so on. We have to be very smart about how we do things, because the maintenance burden over a long period of time can become very big. So we really want to focus on creating things in a way where we can unify the aircraft in a much bigger way. So the features like the interactive manual will be one, for example. Jester will be another big one, where we envision Jester V2 as being a version of Jester that will be common across all of our aircraft, of course with some specializations in each airframe where he's needed. But we recognize the fact that we cannot have a Jester V1 in the F-14 that we maintain and update and try to expand and make better and better like we want to. We want to make him better at running intercepts and things like that, while also having a Jester V2 that we're working on in the F4 and the A6 and other aircraft. So a big focus has really been to try and figure out how we can unify these things. So some of the things from the F4 will definitely come back to the F14. Things like canopy riding are a no-brainer. Those things are, of course, quite simple to kind of backport. But there's other things, like some things that are not even so important from a simulation perspective, like vapor effects, character customization, just things shaking more in the cockpit. I mean, nobody's really hollering for those things, but they are coming because we've built things in a way now where it's much easier to backport them into existing aircraft. The Viggen will be a smaller beneficiary of a lot of these things, unfortunately, because it is an older module and coded in a slightly different way. So it's difficult for us to migrate a lot of things to the Viggen, but we will be doing some upgrades there as well.
Brilliant. One of the things that you've talked about and that I would want to talk a little more, because I'm fairly interested and I'm sure that you'd love to talk about it, is the component system. So first of all, just to clarify, is it that only an F4 thing, or does it come back to the F14 and Viggen as well? And second of all, what is it more precisely? How does it make the F4 better?
Well, I can handle the first part, whether the component system will come back to the F14, and it will in some parts. So the things that will be migrated over will be coming back, but I would say that the F14 will end up being some sort of hybrid in the end. So it's to build or to change an aircraft to be using the component system retroactively, like we would have to do for the F-14, is very, very difficult. But on the other hand, of course, the things that we're bringing back will be based on this new framework. And for the rest, I think Daniel will be a great person to answer, I think.
Yeah, sure thing. So let me give you an example about the component system. And let me first talk about the previous products like Wing or Tomcat. A very simple example would be the classic lamp, or like, yeah, so a lamp or a button where you can click on and some light goes on and off. And in the previous modules, this is mostly simulated as, well, you have some logic and that says on or off. And perhaps you also put in some extras like you have electrics. And that's pretty much it. But now for the Phantom and the component system, we took a different approach and said, well, we sat down and looked at the wiring diagrams, for example. What does a lamp consist of? And you have several components there. You have the electric bus, you have the lamp itself, you have, for example, a relay and resistors and that kind of stuff. And we modeled all of these individually, and they all have electrical properties like volt, ampere, and watt, and whatever. And everything is wired together, and it's simulated on this level. So, for example, the lamp won't just be on and off, but the brightness will be determined by the voltage coming through it. And this is modeled and simulated on the bus level, with all the different things connected to it that take some current. And what is basically coming out to the lamp at the end will then determine the level of brightness. And based on that, you naturally get different effects. Like, let's say you have a voltage spike in your system for whatever reason, or something is broken, and then your lamps will flicker and stuff like that.
So it helps for the emotions, because when you are flying it, you feel like the plane is alive, and the plane is evolving. Yes.
Very natural kind of behavior then, because you don't. With that approach, you don't really have to simulate specific cases, right? Because you simulate the whole system, it just happens naturally.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's more than just immersion, though, if I may, because, for example, if you take hydraulics and flaps and flight surfaces, and then you add mass-based physics to that, right? So now, for example, your landing gear is broken. There's still a way you could release it by using gravity, for example, which previously wasn't possible, because now the mass physics are modeled and the components are modeled, and they all are kind of, interwoven together, and now you can use just gravity to your advantage, for example. And of course, it also, we don't simulate press F and the flaps move, but the hydraulic liquid is being simulated that moves the hydraulics, which in return move the flap or the flight surfaces. So it also feedbacks to you how you use the machine or abuse the machine to a certain extent. Now you can simulate in depth what the pilot and machine interaction, or whether the machine benefits from a positive or a negative interaction with it from the pilot, if that makes sense. Yeah,
it does. Yes, it does.
But it really does.
I think that's when you talk this way that we clearly see that you are working from your user perspective from the very beginning. If you were not a big fan of what you're doing, and if you are not working, I'm sorry, that's not selfish, but basically you are working the way you'd like the people work for other modules, which means you are working the way you would like to use them. And that's very important, because you know exactly what result you want, and you know exactly which level of realism you want to implement and you want to fly with the plane.
Yeah.
Well, that's.
It's important to remember. So it's important to remember, that we're part of the community.
Yes.
Like we have the privilege to develop modules, but other than that, we're the same like anybody who's viewing here today. We have the same wishes, we have the same passion, we have the same aspirations. So, and that's really where this comes from. You have to ask yourself, like, what would I like to see And the same goes for developer and community interaction. Like how would you like to be treated, and that's how you treat your people, and that's how we treat the modules as well. And it roots in that we come from the same community and that we are part of this community. Yeah.
And that's the most important thing, to stay connected to the community. But in addition to the good projects you can make, you stay real close to the community. I told that before, but once you've done that in 2018 with the F14, having a presence here with us today is very important for everyone. We are all part of a global system, and that's very, very important.
It very much is. And speaking of communities, what a community needs to thrive is new people coming in, people that have fresh ideas, that are the next God. Speaking of which, as you've said at the beginning of the interview, you have recently hired a new intern, which would be a painter. Hi there. So you told us that you're a C++ developer at Heatblur. So how did you join Heatblur in the first place? What led you to join, and how's your work?
Well, so for the first part, I play DCS I think since 2016, and one of my favorite planes was actually the Viggen, and then of course continued buying more modules and also the F14, and I was just blown away at the detail of simulation that we provide. And yeah, basically in the last month, I switched my bachelor degrees course to computer science. And I thought to myself, why don't why don't just write them an email? And yeah, one thing led to another, and now I'm sitting here helping out. So yeah, that is my story, how I got here.
And how's your, I don't want to say how's the work, but like on a day-to-day basis, can you talk a little bit about your work, what you do, what are the unique challenges that you face?
Yeah, so to be honest, it's fantastic. I really, really like the work at Heatblur. For now, I'm mostly doing like quality of life things like the clickable manual and stuff like that. I'm working a lot on that. And in general, it's more like a big group of friends that work together to bring the community something that we are proud of to present and to give to you.
And
Yes.
I mean, you can feel the passion of you guys whenever you look at every single tiny detail. You've seen them in the trailer, you've seen them in the F4 demo as well. The cockpit is more alive than ever. Things are shaking everywhere, even little needles, little indicators. Everything is just so alive and so detailed. I can't imagine the amount of time that that you guys took to do all of that. Does maybe, how can I formulate this? Is it that much work going into these little details, or does it come naturally with the rest?
I would say the little details are, funnily enough, no, that's of course now I'm belittling the work of major features like the fantastic radar work that our engineer Josh has done, and so on. Those are big major features, but I would almost say that the small things can be almost the most time consuming, and sometimes just by perhaps sheer volume. Um, we can spend weeks making things shake or wobble or make some sound cues behave a specific way. The difference perhaps is also that it's more of an artistic process, in the sense of you start and then you don't really know where you're going to end up. I think when we started implementing all the things shaking in the cockpit, for example, the list was way shorter than it ended up being. But that's also kind of a thing for us, is that once we get into something and once we start working on it, it generates new ideas, and then we sometimes can't stop ourselves. I've made these things shake and wobble, and that's nice and immersive. But there's this whole other section of things in the cockpit that we can do as well. So sometimes the details are really the time-consuming thing, at least in certain moments of development, I would say.
In addition to the time you can spend working into the detail, it might be very difficult to walk on the very thick line between pushing into the detail and preserving the FPS to have the best experience for the end user. How do you do that?
Good question. We worry a lot and sweat a lot about what we're doing. It's a balance, but it's we also, I suppose, we adhere to the pragma of optimize last. So we just try and generate ideas and stick as much content and cool stuff as we can into the module, and then we we worry about optimization at the end. Usually, that's the best way to do it, not pre-optimize. But of course, we have to try and be clever and smart about how we do things, and think about simplifications that we can make to achieve the same effect without destroying your CPU or GPU, essentially. Some very nice performance targets with the Phantom, even with this increased level of fidelity that we've tried to aim for.
We saw that during the display you've made, something that blew our minds was the sound. And there was a very interesting question into the chat. Do the improvement that you put into the sound for the F4 could be applied in a way to the F14 in order to make that module also evolve with the time?
There are some plans for that, actually. The person, Andrew, who did a lot of the sound for the Phantom is just itching to circle back to the Tomcat a little bit and implement some of the improvements. So there will be some work done there for sure.
Okay, I've just been told by I'm sorry to interrupt, I've been told by our dear friend Regis that we've got, courtesy of you guys of course, some gifts for the audience as well. I think people have figured it out by now, but we are giving away right now 4 F4 licenses. So 2 packs of 2s. The way this is going to work is that you're going to win a crew pack, 1 for you and 1 for your friend. You enter the giveaway once, and then you get 1 key for you and 1 key for any friend you like. You tell us who it is, and Heatblur will do the rest.
And we are going to face a very difficult situation, because when we do that, there is a word which is spammed into the chat, and we must pick the word wisely. If I was only thinking about my egocentric aspect, I would have put the word keyway, but I won't do that. And I propose you guys, if it's possible for you, Regis, to put the word Heatblur as the term to have the giveaway. Is it possible to do that, mate? And that's a thumb up. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, get ready to rock and destroy your keyboards.
Yep, I think the chat is gone.
Yes. You can also participate, even if you are in the Heatblur development team.
And as a heads up, ladies and gents, dear viewers, you might see your message not appearing, and that's normal. It's been registered. It's just that we don't spam the chat, so we can still read your questions. Don't worry, everything's fine. You are entering. Regis, it's been like 15 seconds. How many people have entered? 120. All right. Fair enough. That's going very, very strong. In the meantime, some other questions we got in the chat was about Easter eggs. Do you have, without of course spoiling them, prepared some of these for the F4? We remember, for example, with the F14, some funny Jester voice lines. We remember a game of asteroids, stuff like that.
The funny thing is, you guys didn't even find all the Easter eggs in the F14 yet.
Have we not?
No, you haven't, and you can bet there will be some.
I think there's one still.
Yeah, there's one, and you gotta drop a bomb with a laser code that has 14 in it, and at a time that has 14 in it a lot. So you know.
I think
maybe they'll figure it out.
We'll try that.
Jab is
yeah, I mean So we always, of course, try and think of fun stuff to include. I think we haven't had as much time in the Phantom yet as we did in the F-14 to think and implement them, but I don't doubt that there will be something there for everybody to enjoy in the end, whatever it may be.
I know you won't be able to drop anything unless you like it, but we all know that you guys work a lot, you work at night, and you must have so many secret files into your computer. Um, I wonder what is, because I know that even if you didn't release the module yet, you might be already working on some other topics. If you want to say something about that, or just leave some indications so people will follow the leads and end up somewhere. We don't know where or when, but speaking of the when word has come a lot into the chat, and we will have to ask that question
We
at
can't
the moment.
really do that.
No, we can't really do that, but people are asking for it, so we'll have to make a general answer about that. So, yeah, are you guys able to tell us a little bit about the future of the development of the Heatblur company?
Yeah, I mean, we're mainly working on the things everybody knows about, like the Eurofighter and the A6 and these things. Of course, outside of the F4E, which is the immediate
Yes.
immediate release here and focus for the team. We plan on growing a lot next year, hopefully to be able to bring you all more Heatblur modules at a higher level of quality and fidelity. That's kind of the ultimate goal. We don't really want to move away from what you guys like in us, I suppose is a good way of putting it. So volume above quality and just creating very nice detailed modules is not really something we'll be aiming for. We're working on some other things in the background. I'm not really ready to tease them, I suppose, but they're certainly further off than the Eurofighter and the A6 and so on. So we'll be focusing on those two major milestones for our team. And now that we've created the new kind of framework and technologies for the Phantom, a big part of next year will be migrating those back to the F-14 and the Viggen to some extent, unifying the code bases, finishing the F-14 with the early A, and also starting some kind of new Tomcat journey is on the agenda. So we're excited about that. That's still pending research and figuring out what we can do. But we're excited about really the next 10 years of the company, and I think we have a really fun roadmap, and I'm really excited about that.
Do you think we are
Can
reaching?
I add,
Yes, sorry.
can
Go
I
ahead.
just add, do not forget, we're of course expanding also into the MSFS verse, as we just launched the F-14 for MSFS, and we of course also have. Well, we'll see how this continues, but the plan is, of course, to not only make one module for MSFS, and we'll see what we can bring over as well.
Just a user, because I know you, Exolita, you are very skilled about the technical part, but I'm not. I'm not speaking about the. I'm only speaking about the user perspective. And as a user, I believe that we've reached a step with the F-14. I believe that we will reach another step with the F-4. Is there the same for you into the development? Do you reach some new levels into the development that are exactly the same for the end users? Is it the way you feel that?
I think so. The funny thing is, I think every time we release something, or every time we aim higher, I think we become more self-conscious and more, at least for me, that's the case, more unsure of ourselves somehow, which maybe is a good thing. Maybe it keeps us on our toes. But it could also be an effect of, I think, for example, the things we're doing for the Phantom are stretching us to our technical limits, I would say, to a large extent. Sometimes we're doing things that seem like a great idea, but they end up being so complex and so time intensive that we really stretch ourselves to the limit, and that impacts everything. So yeah, I guess we're getting better, and we feel like we're trying to reach new levels, but But yeah, we stretch ourselves, and that yields a fair bit of uncertainty and risk and worrying about things more than we used to. Some people say like, well, you've been doing this for 10 years and you're making another plane, so it's you kind of like. Actually, I said this 2 years ago in some meetings I had. I said we're on autopilot basically. Like we've done this with the Tomcat. Well, the Phantom's just, I mean, it's going to be fine. But then you start adding new tech or trying to do more stuff, and you really end up in a situation where you have to stretch yourself every time. So I guess so, but it doesn't feel like it, I guess, is the ultimate point.
I guess it's also important to to mention that well, we are growing, but we're still a fairly small team. So when you tackle a new aircraft and want to add more and more content to it that you had before with the previous projects, there's a limit of what you can do without like expanding and hiring, like, I don't know, doubling the size or whatever. And so it is key for us that we find a way that we can port our code base and the tools to the next project, so that we get most of the features that we developed in the previous projects out of the box for the new project, so that we don't have to spend as much time on it anymore. And that has been a key focus of our work, and we've spent a lot of time on that. One example to mention here would be, for example, multi-crew synchronization between pilot and Viso. This has been a topic that was super time consuming to develop in the Tomcat, and in the Phantom, for example, we created some technology, and now it's pretty much out of the box for us. So our developers didn't have to spend a lot of time on this topic to synchronize switch states or something like that, and could then focus their time on the new features. And that's essentially how it is possible for us, without like expanding like crazy, to develop new features and add more and more content to the projects.
One other question that I've got is for the now more of an iconic voice of Jester. Now, Grey Wolf, two questions in one actually. First of all, for those who didn't know it, you were the pilot absolutely sending it during that demonstration earlier. How does it feel like, how does it really feel as a DCS player to fly that aircraft compared to something else? And second of all, as the voice of Jester, which returns with Jester 2.0, how's your work on the Jester project?
Yeah, sure. Well, yeah, from a long time DCS enthusiast, the feel of the aircraft is something that's truly special, and all kinds of people have their setups at home, and it's in a flight simulator we can't feel the G's, we can't feel numerous different things, so it feel in a flight simulator is really special, and as all that have flown the F-14 as well as the Vigan and other aircraft in DCS, but the F-14 really certainly has its own kind of signature flight, and how it feels and how special it is and the feedback it gives you. So just ripping it around some turns and just kind of practicing, you really get the feel of how it behaves, and the rudder behavior and just the turn behavior and how much you can really put into it. But the F4 Phantom, and one of the funnest things to do is in any new module is to just kind of rip it around in your own little air show to just learn how to fly it. Because if you kind of practice at your own little air show and doing certain maneuvers, it comes along pretty quickly at how fast you'll pick up how she flies. It's just pushing it to the edge of its limits and backing off, and that's where the air show demo kind of lives, to show off the aircraft and its capabilities in any air show is. And so flying the F4 in the demo we just saw was pretty awesome. It definitely flies how you would think it flies, I feel. Obviously not having flown either the F-14 or F4, but it feels amazing. It certainly feels as though the vertical stabilizer is very small compared to having two of them in the F-14. So there's a bit more rudder work involved, and you can really feel their simulation of the hydraulics actuating all the control surfaces. It's really a joy to fly. I think if people can fly the Viggen, if they could fly the F-14, stick and rudder aircraft, they'll have no problem in the F-4. She's pretty happy when you get her all configured, and so a few aerodynamic band-aids with those angled wings and angled elevators and whatnot. So she can be happy where she wants to, but she has, of course, the tendency to bite you if you're not careful like other aircraft. But yeah, so the work on Jester 2.0 is going very strong. A lot of work with Iron Mike, and he can certainly comment to some of the stuff that we're trying to add. But just developing Jester in general has just been a pure joy to go on this journey with Heatblur and Iron Mike as my director, because one of my obviously biggest joys in voice acting is having these characters come to life, and I really love doing narration as well, so narrating videos. But creating Jester as an AI driven character has certainly been a more challenging than I think on any other character for a video game is, just because his phrases are stitched together. So with any character you bring to life being like a six gear manual car, Jester, working on Jester is like a 20 gear Mack truck or something, because you have to try to find those gears that allow you to talk in a certain way, knowing that it could be stitched together. And full credit to Iron Mike in leading me to find that balance and in creativity. So it's been quite a journey, and I'd let him comment more on the journey, certainly.
Yeah, and finally, Jester, the first version, became a meme machine with all the reactions he could have. We had a very funny, I don't know if I can quote it, but a funny comment in the chat. No, this guy is not Jester, otherwise he would have ejected already. And that made me laugh, I'm sorry. But we are only 3 minutes left, Exolites. We are going to have to move on, but we still have time for a few more questions. And of course, if you, gentlemen, would like to add things, add elements that we didn't talk about so far, it's your time. And once again, thank you so much for being there with us today. We feel the strong connection that we can have, because let's precise, the F4 and the F-14 are supposed to be modules specialized into air combat, and yet they are announced into virtual air shows community. There is a strong link that is being created years after years, and now we have a global DCS community, and we can feel very lucky about that.
Agreed. And we're very... Oh, go ahead, Alex.
you go, Nick. You go, Nick.
Oh, I just wanted to agree completely and to thank the whole community for having us, really, because I mean, otherwise we would just be a bunch of guys doing stuff for no real reason, really, I suppose. And really, what I think what gets us up in the morning and what gets us to push ourselves and to just do things is everybody in the community, and we really appreciate the opportunity, because we dream of this as younger people, and now we're in the position where we can go to museums ourselves, actually, and take photos and do scans with the knowledge that we have the opportunity to recreate these aircraft with our own vision and spin on it, which is something that we're quite lucky, or an opportunity that we're lucky to have. So thank you to everybody for their trust and their support, really. We really appreciate it.
That's exactly what we told with the studio this afternoon. The museum here is a real museum, and what you guys are doing is just creating a virtual flying museum, and that helps everybody to know how those planes used to fly, and that's very important. and I try to put myself into the whole veteran of the US Air Force, trying the F4 for the first time, and Aviator coming up and saying, yes, it's still alive, and we are so lucky to have that.
We really are.
It's very
Sorry, go ahead.
it's very important for us that the community, especially with aircraft, where the community is still alive and kicking, can walk down the proverbial memory lane. Yeah. And when you get guys like Dave Bio Baranek, or Oki Nance, and those illustrious pilots in Rios from the Tomcat community or stuff, say like, this is how it felt, or I was thrown back in time. This is a great reward on apart from the community enjoying it, which is the biggest reward, but to have an actual pilots able to re-experience what they can't experience anymore, and to see the emotions that are connected with that is just mind-blowingly good. And this is why I also like that you guys, and I liked it through the whole VIAF festival, that you always keep saying and keep putting emphasis on preserving that history, because when we make a module, we also want to preserve the history of that aircraft and tell it as accurately as simming or flight simming allows us to. But of course, there's some caveats. But yeah, I mean, preserving the history and the feel and the memories of these aircraft and the people who worked on them, in them, and around them is very important to us.
I mean, I couldn't agree more with that sentiment, and a lot of people in the VIAF community are working on preserving the legacy of certain aircraft. There are many in memoriam flights. The latest which has flown today was the Vulcan, I believe. However, I'm sorry to be remember that I think we do need to end it here because the show must go on. However, I have been informed that we have over 430 entries into the giveaway. And you know what? I don't know what you guys think about this, but I feel like the odds are a little small, and in the true spirit of the American of the F4, how about we double it? So 4 crew packs instead of 2. What do you think about that?
I say let's do it.
All right.
You heard the boss.
You heard the boss. Ladies and gentlemen, from Heatblur Simulation themselves, you have doubled the amount of chances that you have to win the next best thing in DCS world. And on that note, while we draw the winners of the giveaway during the next display, as not to lose too much time, stay tuned so you can receive our Twitch DMs and then contact us so we can give you your key. I believe, Kiwei, it is time to end. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for being here with us. We cannot thank you enough for your help, support, and passion.